All right, so here's the thing. We released this video about 6 months ago, but it got taken down not long after for reasons I won't go into now. We finally are able to put it back up. Some say it's the greatest power ballad ever created. It's definitely one of the best hits to come out of 1983. I mean, it was so impactful that when Prince was writing his own power ballad, Purple Rain, he was really concerned that he might have subconsciously borrowed from this song, so he actually called the band up to see how they felt about it. Coming up next, in exclusive interviews with the band, they tell us what happened next, about the Prince conversation, and how the song came from a real experience. Story of a classic from a Hall of Fame band. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever had 7 or 8 different accounts under different aliases so that you could have lots of albums from Columbia House, you're going to love this channel. Did it all the time. Subscribe below right now. Click the bell so that you always get our latest interviews and stories of the songs. That was kind of our generation's Spotify. Anyway, Columbia House. Also, check us out on Patreon. Become a part of curating this important history. So I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, Revelations, where featured artists go very deep into their greatest songs and albums. Today, we have a very cool episode on what many consider to be the ballad of all power ballads. The number 12 1983 hit by Rock and Roll Hall of Fame group, the one and only Journey. Faithfully. Now, after world domination in 1981 and 1982 with their number 1 album, Escape, fans were looking for an encore. Journey had killed it with Escape, with 3 top 10 hits, including Who's Crying Now, that went to number 4, Don't Stop Believin', that went to number 9, and Open Arms, that went all the way to number 2. It was their most successful album. That was until their greatest hits album would come out in '88. But it was their peak studio album for sure. They were so massive at that point, they even made a video game about the band. And this was back when there were only a few video games on the market. That's how big this band was. Still is, really. After a massive tour, this band went back into the studio immediately. And by February of 1983, they had dropped their 8th studio album, Frontiers. This album went all the way to number 2 on the Billboard album charts. Now remember, this is one of the most competitive years ever, with Michael Jackson Thriller dominating the top spot for most of the year. In fact, Frontiers was at the runner-up spot, number 2, for I think it was 9 consecutive weeks. Just one behind Thriller. The album started off with the monstrous and anthemic Separate Ways Worlds Apart. That peaked at number 8. And then Faithfully went to number 12. And then Send Her My Love and After the Fall both went to number 23 respectively. 4 top 40 hits from one rock album, which was virtually unheard of for most bands, but not for Journey. They did it a lot. It was also 6 times platinum, with several classic rock staples beyond the singles, including Chain Reaction and Edge of the Blade, both great songs. And the album might have had even more hits. The album was finished and ready for pressing when, in a last-minute conference with Journey's A&R man, Michael Dilbeck, 2 songs were actually ripped from the original lineup that was going to be. They were Ask the Lonely and Only the Young, both of which would be hits later on. Only the Young, of course, went to the movie Vision Quest. That would go all the way to the top 10. And then Ask the Lonely was put on the soundtrack for Two of a Kind, and it hit number 3 on the rock charts. Both are heard all the time now. The album also became their biggest showing in the UK. It hit number 6 on the album charts there at that time. Of all the classic tracks on Frontiers, though, the one that still stands out for me and for many is Faithfully. became a standard of the American rock canon with an absolutely inspired and heart-wrenching, sincere vocal by the voice himself, the great one, Steve Perry. A pure and mesmerizing guitar solo by the king of melodic rock guitar himself, Neal Schon. And written by keyboardist Jonathan Cain, whose piano part, especially the beginning, is as familiar as anything heard on radio over the last 50 years. Cain began writing the song while on a tour bus. He started with the words "Highway Run into the Midnight Sun." Into the midnight sun. He wrote them down on a paper napkin while they were headed to their next stop in New York. Apparently, he finished the song the next day, and the whole thing came to him in a matter of like 30 minutes. He would share that the experience was supernatural, spiritual. It was something that just had to come out. Any touring musician can relate to its tale of being on the road while having a family at home and how tough that separation is. So it's exactly what Jonathan Cain was experiencing as he was on this tour. In fact, Jonathan Cain and his then wife would divorce a short time later. Very tough. The music video was especially memorable. You know, Steve Perry's mustache and the shaving scenes. Lost without you. It actually made me want to try shaving for the first time at 8 years old. That's how much this music was always inspiring me. So many artists have been inspired by this song. Bryan Adams has said that his 1985 #1 hit was influenced by this song. He was opening for Journey on tour around this time, and it came to him. Now, that makes sense. Prince was influenced by it when he wrote Purple Rain. He incorporated it into his outro solo. He felt it was so close to Faithfully, he actually phoned the band. I'll let the band members tell you the story about that next. The song's also been a big part of pop culture with uses in Talladega Nights, Glee, The Goldbergs, Here Comes the Boom, Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star. Faithfully. It's been covered by many people, most notably by Lori Morgan, country, punk band, The Lagwagon, and Matchbox 20 singer Rob Thomas. Faithfully. And it's been the theme to thousands and thousands of proms, and then some. It will live forever as the power ballad that all power ballads are measured by. Up next, legends Neal Schon and Jonathan Cain tell us the story of this hit and what the song means to them all these years later. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses that I will truly wear forever. I love these glasses because every pair I own have blue light protection in the lenses. No matter if you wear prescription glasses, protecting your eyesight from the damaging digital blue light is vital. And Zenni blocks lenses do that at a fraction of the cost of the competition. Click on the link below to go to zenni.com. Here are Neal Schon and Jonathan Cain on Faithfully. Highway run into the
Our producers at the time, Mike Stone and Kevin Elson, said, you need another power ballad for this record. And so I went out and I charted it in my own way, so a little road map, and so I could tell what part was coming.
And he had all these, and I said, take with this bit, I had two machines. I had a JVC and a JVC.
Yeah.
And I would bounce them over back and forth, because it's the only way you do it.
Right.
So this bit goes into this bit, and try this bit.
And then John brought in the music the next day, and I listened to it and I go, I don't know what to do with that, because I certainly wasn't hearing it like it ended up.
And then we'd say, well, let's try this and let's try that.
I just remember Jonathan going, just think, you're always like so orchestrated in your head how you hear things, and so he goes, think like a French horn, and so it started with that orchestrated part and a few little, swells here and there.
The great thing about Journey was the time we spent creating and rehearsing. Herbie had a beautiful warehouse, and we spent 5 days a week working on our craft.
As I had just gotten this Lexicon 224, not a 224X, but the first 224 that they use in the studio for mixing. And I loved the way it sounded. verbs and pre-delays and slight chorusing. I mean, excellent sounding unit. They made me one for guitar. So I just gotten it. And I went, oh, well, I'm going to try this on this song.
Faithfully could go, as far as the fans are concerned, could go toe to toe with Don't Stop Believin'. I mean, that faithfully means as much to people as Don't Stop Believin'.
It's still that big with fans every night when we play it.
The song I like to call a game changer song. You hear it and you're like, your life is different. Just like Don't Stop Believin'.
People are very connected with it. The feeling of the song, where the lyrics are. It was something real that he was going through. Yeah. And that's why it's so good. I'm forever yours. First verse goes by, and I'm forever yours. Faithfully. Steve Perry, though, I mean, he just sang it to death. Sang the out of it, if I can say that.
I love it.
He put the soul in it. Great lyrics, great chord changes. And he's like, whoa, whoa. With Steve and I, we just connect. And I was assuming that I knew where vocals were landing and I was answering.
I mean, whatever differences the band members have, you and Steve and John had a chemistry when you were writing these songs that is right up there with the greatest in the history of rock.
I'll tell you what, every member in the band was in such fine form, Literally, we played it twice. I mean, honest to God. And the first time was very good too, but the second time, there was just some magic. There are no guitar overdubs on that song. It was one take from the beginning to the end. That was it. We got engaged to that song.
Yeah.
And it's always been a special song. It's like one of the greatest songs, that John brought to the band. And I think that no other band could have played that song as well.
That guitar part that you came up with, I was playing it back to back with Purple Rain to my wife today, actually. And I was showing her, because at the end, Prince does a solo for a long time, the Faithfully really inspired Prince, and he heard that, and we wrote Purple Rain. Tell us that story.
Well, the best I can remember is Herbie Herbert got a call originally from management, Prince's management, and said, they were concerned because he had this song coming out that it was too close of chord changes to Faithfully. And if you listen to it now, you can hear similarities, but they are two different songs. And so, John listened to it, and he thought that it was a completely different song. He said, yeah, it's very similar, but I'm just grateful that you took the time to call me and actually asked if it was okay. So he said, go, He loved the song.
A lot of people wanted a piece of that action, I think. In the 80s, you guys certainly defined the power ballad many times. You perfected it.
Most of the ballads that we did back then, we were into that big symphonic, larger than life, like sound, power ballads, for real.
We're hanging out on the streets of San Francisco with Neal.
Started out when I was like about 14 here in this place. It used to be Keystone Corner. And there are many, many artists that played here. In the old days, it was a real cool little, very intimate blues club, jazz club. Actually, all this area in San Francisco and what we're about to see was all music. A good friend of mine, Jackie Villanueva, that I met when I was very young down in San Mateo, discovered me, brought me up, introduced me to the Santana Band, but before that, actually introduced me to Elvin Bishop, who used to play here. He was here for months. And on, I can't remember, it was Tuesday or Thursday nights, they would have a gun off, and different guitarists that would come in and sort of have a shootout on stage. And I was holding court and I was winning. And so Elvin sort of, took me under his wing, and he dug the fact that I really, knew my blues playing back then. And had studied BB and Albert King and everybody else that was around. And so Elvin, after playing with him for about a month in this place, he goes, I'm going to take you, I got a present for you and a surprise, and I'm going to take you to the Fillmore West, and I'm going to introduce you to BB King, and BB will probably put us on stage and we'll jam with him that night. And I was like, really? That was like, mind effing. And so we went, and I met BB and Bill Graham for the first time. And we're backstage. He says, you guys come on stage and let's have a jam, And then before you knew it, I was like standing on stage at the Fillmore West on the opposite side of BB. BB was over here and I was over here. And I had studied his stuff, Honestly, I love BB. And so he would go, and I go, and I'd answer him with his own stuff, I didn't do the typical thing that a lot of kids do when they get on stage. They don't have respect for the artist that they're on stage for. And they want to showboat and just play a zillion riffs. And I played no more than he played. And I would answer him with his same vibrato, same, like attack on the strings, not really blaring loud, like pulled down, to where he was coming from. And so he loved that. He started looking around the corner like, who is that kid? And that was like, one of the fondest memories I've ever had, of playing in my first big place and meeting Bill Graham for the first time. But, this was a great place. The club owner was kind enough to let me in. I was way underage, obviously, and it was a bar. And so nobody under 21 was supposed to be allowed in there. And he allowed me to come in and leave through a basement door with Jackie. I'd tell my folks that I was going to jam at my friend's house, or, somebody had garage bands,
Now, as many of you already know, Journey has released several new songs from their upcoming full-length studio album titled Freedom. Actually, their 1986 album, Raised on Radio, was originally titled Freedom, for those who don't know. It's out July 8th, 2022. Freedom is truly one of the most anticipated albums in years. The songs that have been released so far are The Way We Used to Be, You Got the Best of Me, and Let It Rain, a trio of songs that all have a unique sound. It's completely new with an essence of the classic sound and has us wondering what the whole album's going to sound like. I'm really excited to hear it. And of course, the new mix of Separate Ways, Worlds Apart that appeared on the Stranger Things 4 trailer. This band continues to be everywhere. They're about to celebrate their 50th anniversary. They just keep going and going. Leave us a comment about this classic rock power ballad by this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame group. What are your feelings on Faithfully and Frontiers, this band? Make sure to click below to reserve Journey's new album so that you can get it, Freedom, when it comes out. We'll link to it. And make sure to check us out on Patreon and subscribe if you like this content. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friend.